Hello.
My girlfriend looked at me with this nasty little smirk and said, "You'd completely fall apart without me." I just looked back at her and thought, "Oh, really?" Right then and there, I decided to accept that overseas promotion, lock down a temporary place to live, and set up my mail forwarding. By the time she showed up at my old place with this big, dramatic speech she'd probably rehearsed in the mirror, some random stranger was the one opening the door. My name is Daniel. I'm 35 and honestly, I've always considered myself a pretty capable guy. I work as a structural engineer for a massive global corporation, which means I spend my days managing incredibly complex infrastructure projects that require absolute precision and a ton of meticulous planning. And despite what my now ex-girlfriend seemed to think, I am fully capable of matching my own socks. But for 5 long years, I lived in this weird state of manufactured dependency, a role that was carefully crafted for me by Claire, who's 34. When we first got together, it was a total whirlwind of charisma and excitement. See, Claire thrives in the world of elite public relations. Her entire life revolves around optics, influence, and calling the shots. When she moved into my apartment about 3 years ago, she brought that exact same management style right into our home. Before I knew it, my life became her personal project. Started out small. She'd pick out what I was supposed to wear, completely writing off my own style as painfully ordinary. Then she completely rearranged my kitchen, claiming my setup was pure chaos. She even managed to reshape our entire social life, slowly weeding out my old, easygoing buddies and replacing them with her flashy, high-powered circle of friends. Every single controlling move she made was always disguised as some kind of affectionate self-improvement project. In her mind, she wasn't being dominating. She was just refining my life. She didn't see it as isolating me. She thought she was just curating our public image. And because I'm the kind of guy who chooses peace over conflict, I just let it slide. Honestly, it was always just easier to give in on dinner plans or a wardrobe choice than to deal with the exact same exhausting argument every single night. I was basically the classic frog in a pot of slowly heating water, mistaking the warmth for comfort. My only real escape from it all was building these incredibly intricate architectural models. I had a little studio set up in a spare room where I'd spend hours building replicas of the Brooklyn Bridge and the Eiffel Tower. It was highly detailed work that took an immense amount of focus. Claire always referred to it as my hobby nook and dismissed my models as nothing more than cluttered little trinkets. She couldn't see the actual craftsmanship behind it. To her, it was just some immature quirk that ruined the polished, perfect couple aesthetic she was trying to project to the world. The whole thing finally blew up about 2 months ago. My boss, Mr. Thompson, called me in and offered me a massive, career-defining opportunity. He wanted me to be the lead engineer on our firm's flagship bridge project over at our European headquarters. We were talking about a 2-year assignment, a huge promotion, and the exact kind of dream work I'd been chasing my whole life. I was absolutely riding high for about an hour, right up until I got home and shared the news with Claire. I stupidly expected her to be happy for me. Instead, she just frowned, immediately annoyed by all the logistics of it. "Europe?" she muttered, without even looking up from her tablet. "For 2 years? What a total pain. I'm going to need all new networking contacts, and shipping our stuff is going to be an absolute nightmare. We'll definitely have to put most of this tacky furniture into storage." That word "we" was instantaneous and absolute. There was no discussion, no asking me what I wanted. What do you think about this? Leave a comment with your thoughts on how she handled my news. She immediately launched into planning out her brand new life over there, talking about which fancy neighborhoods she preferred, the kind of apartment she'd need for entertaining guests, and how this move was the perfect chance to elevate our social status on a global scale. My massive career milestone was nothing more than a stepping stone for her social climbing. So, I spoke up carefully and said, I was actually thinking maybe I'd head out alone for the first few months, just to get settled and find my bearings. She finally looked up, and her face was just a mask of pure disbelief. Then she let out this sharp, incredibly mocking laugh. "Alone?" she scoffed, her voice just dripping with condescension. "Please, Daniel, you wouldn't survive a week out there without me. You can barely even pick out a decent shirt by yourself. Within days, you'd be living on takeout and walking around in crumpled suits. Don't be ridiculous. And right there, that was the exact moment the water boiled over. Every single thing I had ever achieved, all my professional skills, my entire adult life. She just erased it all with one nasty comment. She didn't look at me and see a partner. She saw a helpless project, a high-earning asset that she had successfully tamed. But instead of losing my temper, this deep, calm resolve just washed over me. Years of biting my tongue instantly crystallized into one clear, solid purpose. I looked right at this woman who honestly believed she had manufactured me, and I made my decision. "Really?" I said, keeping my voice completely low and level. She totally missed the shift in my tone. "Obviously, darling," she replied carelessly. "Now come on. Let's start looking at apartments." I didn't even bother arguing. I just nodded along and let her believe she had won the round. First thing the next morning, I walked straight into Mr. Thompson's office and officially accepted the promotion. The project was set to kick off in 60 days. That's when I started working on the most intricate project of my entire life, quietly untangling my existence from Claire's. I had to live in two completely different worlds. In one world, I played the part of the compliant, submissive boyfriend, nodding along whenever she brought up her relocation plans. But in the other world, I was a man executing a highly precise, step-by-step exit strategy. Step 1 was setting up the new life. I got in touch with my company's relocation team and explained that my relationship was ending, emphasizing that absolute discretion was mandatory. They were total professionals about it. They set me up with a fully furnished corporate apartment for my first 3 months and arranged a travel allowance, routing every single communication to my secure work email. Step 2 was wrapping up the old life. I gave my landlord a formal 60-day notice to end my lease, which was luckily solely in my name, set to expire on August 15th. I booked my flight for the evening of August 14th. Then, I used a leasing service to find a new tenant, who signed a contract to move in on August 16th. By the time I left, that apartment would officially no longer be mine. Step 3 was dealing with our possessions, which was easily the trickiest part of the whole operation. I hired a moving company recommended by my firm and gave them explicit instructions. All of my personal belongings, my clothes, my books, and especially my fragile models, were to be professionally packed up for international shipping. Claire's stuff, on the other hand, was to be packed with absolute care and moved into a high-end, climate-controlled storage unit that I set up in her name. I even paid for 3 months of rent in advance. I told her that some relocation experts were coming by just to assess our move, and honestly, her own arrogance was my perfect cover. She was so incredibly focused on making her big European debut that she never even bothered to check the fine print. Step 4 was erasing the digital trail. I filed a mail forwarding request with the post office so nothing would slide through the cracks. Then I bought a brand new phone, which was set to activate with a completely new number the second I left the country. Those final few weeks felt completely surreal. I'd come home from work and Claire would be showing me pictures of cute little bistros in Amsterdam, while I had literally just spent my lunch break confirming international shipping details. The most therapeutic part of the whole thing was packing up my architectural models. I custom-built foam cases and carefully wrapped every single structure myself. One evening, Claire peeked her head into my studio and said, "Still messing around with your little trinkets, Daniel? I need your input on the color scheme for the new place." I kept my voice entirely even and just said, "Just securing some of my old sketches." By the time August 14th rolled around, my actual flight day, the movers had finished everything. My belongings were already on a ship heading across the Atlantic. Her things were safely locked away in storage, and the apartment was completely empty. Claire was out at a big farewell brunch with her girlfriends, planning to meet up with me at 6 p.m. so we could head to the airport for our shared flight. At 4 p.m., I stood alone in that bare apartment. I took a quick photo of the storage unit key and the access card, which I had left at the facility's front office under her name. I texted her the photo along with the address and the unit number. Right after that, I dropped my old phone into an airport recycling bin. I boarded my flight, turned on my new phone, and watched the ground completely disappear beneath us. I didn't feel any anger or sadness. All I felt was the steady, calm hum of a brand new life beginning. It's been about 3 weeks since I landed over here. My new city is a beautiful, vibrant mess of chaos, and my corporate apartment is incredibly sleek and quiet. The job itself is turning out to be even more demanding than I had originally hoped, which is great. The sheer freedom of it all is exhilarating, though it can honestly feel a little overwhelming at times. For the first week, I'd literally wake up in a sudden panic, half expecting Claire to come busting through the door, ready to reorganize my entire life. And I didn't have to wait very long to find out how she reacted, either. After about 48 hours, my old backup email account turned into an absolute war zone. The messages from her friends, and her mother felt like tracking the fallout of a bomb that went off miles away. From what I can piece together, she probably finished up her brunch, tried calling my completely dead phone, and then finally saw my text about the storage unit. Totally confused, she must have headed over to the apartment at 6 p.m., fully expecting to scoop up her helpless boyfriend and whisk him away to Europe. Instead, a brand new tenant answered the door. I can picture her trying to push past him, furiously demanding to know what he was doing in her home, and then the slow horror setting in as he explained that he'd signed a lease a month ago. Her perfectly curated world completely unraveled right there on a stranger's doorstep. Her very first email to me was just pure, unadulterated rage, demanding to know where the hell I was and what I had done with all of her stuff. The messages that came later were a wild mix of legal threats, desperate pleas, and furious accusations. Her friend Emma stepped in to play the enforcer, sending emails calling me an absolute villain for leaving Claire broken and completely homeless. Her mother tried to pull a massive guilt trip, telling me that this wasn't the man she thought she knew. But the real escalation, the incredibly dirty move that I fully expected her to pull, just came through my new HR department. My boss, Mr. Thompson, called me into his office and said, "Daniel, we just got a really disturbing phone call at your old branch. A woman claiming to be your fiancée, Claire, called in saying there was a massive family emergency regarding your father's health. She was completely hysterical, demanding to know where I was flying to and trying to squeeze my new contact info out of them." Hearing that made my blood run absolutely cold. Thankfully, my dad is completely fine. But my boss told me that our corporate team followed standard protocol to the letter. Since I'd already put in that confidential relocation request, they immediately flagged her call as highly suspicious and refused to give her a single shred of information. They told her they'd contact me themselves if there was a real emergency. As soon as she realized she wasn't getting anywhere, she slammed the phone down. I sat there and explained the whole messy situation to Mr. Thompson, the controlling behavior, her telling me I'd totally crumble without her, and why I chose to make a completely clean break. He was incredibly supportive about the whole thing, but man, it really showed me just how far she was willing to go to keep tabs on me. A few days later, my new work phone started buzzing with an unknown number. I knew I couldn't keep running from it forever, so I braced myself and picked up. Right away, a sharp voice came through the line. "Daniel, it's Emma." She didn't even waste time with small talk. "You need to fix this right now," she snapped. "Claire is literally crashing on my living room couch. Her entire life is completely wrecked because of you, and she can't even get to her favorite dresses because you went and hid them." I took a deep, slow breath to keep my temper in check. "Hello, Emma," I said calmly. "Look, there is absolutely nothing for me to fix here. Claire's life is her own responsibility now. The truth is, she was a guest in my apartment, and I don't even lease that place anymore. And as for her things, I didn't hide a single item. They are all safely packed away in a high-end storage unit. She already has the address and the key." "A guest?" Emma scoffed, sounding completely offended. "And no, she can't just go get her stuff. The facility told her she needs to be on the official access list with a valid ID, and you never bothered to add her name. You are completely unhinged." I realized right then it was just an honest oversight on my part. "My bad," I replied. "I'll send an email to the facility right now to grant her full, unrestricted access. Consider it handled." "Handled?" Emma let out this bitter laugh. You completely destroy a girl's life, and you think a quick email just fixes everything? She literally gave up her entire world for you, Daniel. I had to stop her right there. What exactly did she give up, Emma? I asked, genuinely wanting to hear her logic. Her job? Her friends? Let's be real here. The only things she actually lost were my apartment and my paycheck. Let's not get confused about what her real priorities were. You are a cold, manipulative coward, she hissed. Is it really manipulative to accept a massive career promotion? I countered. And is it cold to walk away from a relationship where I was constantly told I was incompetent? She made her opinion of me crystal clear. Emma. I just acted on it and spared her the terrible burden of having to manage my life anymore. I let that sink in for a second before dropping the hammer. And do me a favor. Tell Claire that my company's corporate office wasn't exactly thrilled about her faking a medical emergency. The whole incident is officially documented. If either she or you try to contact me again, it's going straight to our legal team as harassment. The line went completely dead silent. She obviously had no idea Claire had pulled a stunt like that. This isn't over, Daniel, she finally muttered, her voice dropping to a low threat. As far as I'm concerned, it is, I told her. I'm busy building a brand new life over here, one that I am perfectly capable of running by myself. With that, I hung up the phone. A few days later, my company's legal department forwarded a very formal email they'd received from a law firm representing a Ms. Claire Moreau. Just like that, our little war had officially moved to a brand new front. Fast forward a bit for the final update. It's been about 6 months since I packed up and moved across the ocean. All that initial, crazy chaos has finally settled down into a steady, incredibly fulfilling rhythm. I'm finally living a life that I'm crafting entirely on my own terms. My new apartment actually feels like a genuine home now. I'm completely thriving at my job, and I even joined a local club for model builders. For the first time in my adult life, I'm surrounded by people who actually appreciate my models for the true artistry and craftsmanship behind them, instead of looking down on them. That legal battle was really the last messy chapter of the old life. The letter her lawyer sent over read like a total work of fiction. She was demanding a massive payout for emotional distress and abandonment. She even tried to claim palimony, inventing these completely imaginary career sacrifices she supposedly made for me. But the absolute wildest part was that she demanded half of all my personal assets, specifically calling out my model collection as valuable, co-owned artwork. The pure irony of her trying to cash in on the exact same hobby she used to mock relentlessly was just mind-boggling. I didn't even bother responding to her myself. My company's legal team handles international staff relocations all the time, so they took the reins and delivered a calm, devastating corporate takedown. First, they laid out our legal status. We were never married, we didn't own any joint property, and there was zero legal partnership between us. Her financial claims didn't have a single leg to stand on. Next, they addressed the apartment, handing over the original lease with only my name on it along with the official termination notice, proving Claire was nothing more than a legal guest. Then they tackled her possessions, presenting the storage unit contract to show that I had gone out of my way to protect and preserve her property. As for the abandonment claim, they whipped out my signed promotion and relocation agreement, which was dated way before I actually left, proving this was a planned career move. Finally, they hit them with a counterclaim, documenting every single harassing email she sent along with the fraudulent emergency call she made to my old office. The letter wrapped up with a very clear warning. If they pushed this any further, we would immediately file formal harassment charges. Her response to that was absolute silence. A week later, my legal team got a simple one-sentence email stating that Ms. Moreau was dropping all of her claims. The second she was forced to face down a massive corporate legal department and real potential charges, her entire bluff completely collapsed. My sister Lily actually filled me in on the aftermath back home. Claire ended up stuck with all of her own lawyer's fees. And once those first 3 months of rent I paid for ran out, she had to take over the incredibly steep monthly payments for that high-end storage unit. Eventually, She had to swallow her pride and move all of her perfectly curated belongings straight into her parents' garage. Her time on Emma's living room couch cut short too, mostly because Emma got completely sick of playing her full-time therapist. Lily heard that Claire had to take on a second job just to keep her head above water, and she's currently living in a tiny little apartment, constantly whining to anyone who will listen about how her cruel ex-boyfriend completely ruined her life. Still zero self-reflection whatsoever. At the end of the day, my revenge wasn't about being aggressive or trying to hurt her. It was just about achieving radical independence. She confidently told me that I couldn't survive without her presence in my life. So, I went out and built a beautiful existence that proved her, and that tiny, insecure part of myself that used to believe her completely wrong. Now, inside my new apartment, all my models sit proudly on beautiful custom shelves. I'm currently sinking my teeth into my most ambitious project yet. A massive replica of the Øresund Bridge, that incredible structure that connects Denmark and Sweden. It's highly intricate, stunningly beautiful, and a perfect testament to what a person can actually build when they have true focus, patience, and a clear vision. I don't hold on to any hatred for Claire anymore. Honestly, all I really feel is a distant kind of sympathy. She's completely trapped in a world of pure image with absolutely no real substance underneath it. She genuinely thought her greatest talent was managing my life, but in reality, that was just a distraction to hide the fact that she had no clue how to manage her own. By walking away, I didn't just strip away her flashy lifestyle. I took away her favorite project. And in doing that, I finally reclaimed myself. I didn't just survive. I'm out here building something infinitely stronger, better, and entirely my own.
Bye bye.